Hi boys and girls, today we are getting ready to learn a new skill. We are going to learn how to read a special kind of text called Reader's Theater. Reader's Theater is kind of like a play, and it's when the reader is acting out the story and reading as characters, and usually you have several different people doing the reading of the characters. And when you're reading the characters, you want to sound like that character. All right, but before we actually talk about our learning target and doing the Reader's Theater, I want to introduce you to the characters that we're going to be talking about and reading about. We are going to be reading about George and Martha, and they are written by James Marshall. And there are two hippos that are really, really good friends, but they kind of get themselves into a lot of little pickles or problems in their stories. This book alone has 5 short little stories about George and Martha. We're going to read the very first one today, just so you can get an idea of what George and Martha are like. And our first story, this whole book has 5 stories about 2 fine friends. And this is story number 1, The Fibber. Now, if you tell a fib, it means that you're telling something that's not true. Kind of a harsh word for it would be to tell a lie. So, telling something that's not true. Now, I'm going to read you this first story. It's real short, and I'll make sure that I show you the pictures, but I want you to pay close attention to the characters. What could you say about George and what could you say about Martha? Also, I want you to listen. There are some speaker tags in here, and I will kind of go like this to say speaker tag. One day, George wanted to impress Martha. I used to be a champion jumper, he said. There's that speaker tag. Martha raised an eyebrow. And, said George, I used to be a wicked pirate. Said Martha. George tried harder. Once I was even a famous snake charmer. Oh, goody, said Martha. And there's that speaker tag, said Martha. So there you can see it looks like they're having a little tea. And he's trying to impress her, make her think well of him. So he's kind of telling all these big stories that aren't true. Martha went to the closet and got out Sam. Here's a snake for you to charm. Eek! Cried George. You hear that speaker tag? Eek! Cried George. There's that speaker tag. And he jumped right out of his chair. So where's George? Look, there he is. Way up here in the light fixture. It's only a toy stuffed snake, said Martha. I'm surprised. A famous snake charmer is such a scaredy cat. Listen to what George says. I told some fibs, said George. You hear that speaker tag, said George. For shame, said Martha. But you can see what a good jumper I am, said George. That's true, said Martha. Is he a good jumper? He jumped all the way up into that light fixture, so that part wasn't a fib after all. But being a snake charmer and a wicked pirate, those were fibs. So now you have an idea about George and Martha and their friendship. So we're going to go ahead and move on very quickly to our learning goal today. Our learning goal is, I have to kind of look here and read, I can get ready to read scripts by noticing the characters and then choosing a character and skimming my part before reading. Now, I've already done that. So I took a look at my script. And there's a couple things that I want you to notice about the script before we even read. Is that, and I'm going to try to get it close enough for you to kind of see what we're talking about. At the very top of the page is the title, and it says George and Martha, the High Board. And under the title is the author's name, and it says right here, based on the book by James Marshall. So we have the title, and then right here we have the author's name. And then we have the speaker tags. And in our regular story, a speaker tag can be like said Martha. Well, here in a reader's theater, they have the speaker tag. Here's the cast, and it tells me the different speakers that are going to be in this story, in the cast of the story. We have narrator 1, narrator 2, George, and Martha. I kind of already looked at this story, so I'm ready. But when you are looking at this on the next slide, you want to kind of look through it, practice it in your head before you start reading it out loud as a theater. All right. Now, I'm not going to hold this up as I'm reading it, otherwise you won't be able to, I won't be able to read it. But on the next slide, I'm going to put them in there and you will read the theater with someone at your house. All right, I'm going to be reading all 4 parts, narrator 1, narrator 2, George, and Martha. At your house, I want you to pick one of those reading speaker tags to read, and I want you to do your very best to make him sound like a character. All right, narrator 1. One day at the swimming pool, and then George. Today I will jump from the high board. Martha. Don't do it. George. Everyone will be watching. Martha. You'd never catch me up there. George. That's because you're a scaredy cat. Narrator 2. But when George got up on that high board, he lost his nerve. George. I can't do it, and everybody's watching. Narrator 1. His knees began to shake. Martha. I'll be right up. Narrator 2. Martha climbed up the ladder. George. Now what? Martha. I'll go first. Narrator 1. And she jumped off. Narrator 2. Martha caused quite a splash. Narrator 1. Everyone was impressed. Narrator 2. And no one even noticed that George got down. So he didn't even do the jump. George. I just didn't feel like it today. Narrator 1. Martha didn't say a word. All right. Now, on the next couple slides, I want you to practice reading a part in the Reader's Theater. Get mom, dad, an older sister or brother to help you do this. Practice it a couple times. All right. I would love to see a picture of you practicing your reading. All right. Now, thinking about this little story before we move on, do you think Martha was a good friend? She said she didn't want to jump from the high board at the pool. She didn't want to do it. But when she saw her friend was up there having a problem, she didn't think about it a second. She got right up there. She even told him, I'll jump first. And she was such a good friend that she took he was embarrassed and he went ahead and he got down and then he didn't have to worry about it because Martha helped him out. So I think that's a really good friend. All right, next two slides, I want you to practice getting ready to read, get ready to read your script by noticing the characters, choosing the character you want to read, and then kind of skimming through and checking all of your words before you actually do practice. All right, do a great job.